Every single room and every hallway in police stations is fully covered by CCTV cameras. In addition to that, body cameras are worn by the officers so that the police can monitor every single movement and even every word that people say. This is not something that anyone is unaware of, but sometimes even the smartest criminals forget it, which leads to the recording of some very strange and truly unusual moments that are caught on tape. This is precisely the story of what happened to Dawson Mackey. Dawson was considered the black sheep within his own family. He never managed to get along with his siblings, and their interactions frequently escalated into physical altercations. He was so troublesome that his mother decided to homeschool him instead of sending him to school. Dawson's aggressive behavior continued well into his adulthood. When he was a teenager, he developed a very strong interest in Halloween masks and horror films, and he would never hesitate to scare everyone around him. Eventually, by the time he reached his 20th birthday, he had so many arguments and disagreements with his mother that the moment finally arrived for him to move out of the house. Dawson was just missing this one crucial element. His unstable mental state, fueled by the deep-seated anger he harbored towards his family, culminated in a truly horrific crime. At 4:30 in the afternoon on the 31st of October, 2011, precisely on the night of Halloween, he murdered his mother in complete cold blood with 10 distinct stab wounds. On the very next day, his sister decided to call the police and told them that nobody was answering the house phone and that this situation had made her feel extremely worried. The police responded immediately to the scene and discovered the mother's lifeless body lying on the bed inside the home. It did not take very long for the responding officers to identify the primary suspect in this case. Dawson was seen walking down the street wearing a jacket that was heavily stained with his mother's blood. He was taken into custody right then and there and transported to the interrogation room. Let's look at this moment again. Dawson, the moment police open the door, acts like a mentally ill person. He holds his hand strangely and stutters. It seems he's forgotten the surveillance camera was recording long before the detective entered.
I'm talking to you about what happened to your mom.
People calling and said something's happened at home. To mom, they're very bad. What would happen to my mom?
Well, that's what I'm asking you.
I'm supposed to have an attorney?
You want to ask for an attorney?
Yeah.
Okay.
He must have thought to himself that if he added a little bit of madness to the long list of strange behaviors everyone already knew about him, he could surely get out of this dangerous situation. But forgetting the interrogation room camera was his biggest mistake. This single video was enough for the jury to reject the defendant's claim of mental illness, deeming it feigned and sentence him to 15 years in prison. But Dawson Mackey isn't our main case here. He's just a pitiful example of a ruthless criminal with a very low level of intelligence. The defendant we're discussing in this episode is a somewhat better actor. We want to talk about Chris Watts, but before we analyze the behavior of this suspect, let's first hear what the story is.
Hey guys, my name is Shanann Watts. I live in Frederick, Colorado. I just want you guys to know a little bit of my story.
It was back in 2010, at a time when Shannon was grappling with a very serious illness, that she first encountered Chris. In a video she subsequently posted on her Facebook profile, she shared that when Chris initially expressed his interest, she was truly at the absolute lowest point of her entire life, and the idea of entering into any kind of relationship with him hadn't even remotely crossed her mind. But over time, he gradually became the most wonderful and best thing that had ever happened in her life.
Tortured him, I rejected him, but he stuck around. And he stuck around because he was the one for me.
Time went by, and everything somehow aligned for Chris and Shanann to get married in 2013. That very same year, in the home they had purchased in Colorado, they welcomed a daughter named Bella. 2 years later, their second daughter Celeste was born.
We have 2 kids. We live in Colorado, and he's
On
the
the
best
surface,
thing that has
everything was going
ever
well.
happened to me.
Don't eat turtle! I got turtle!
Chris was a family man, always dedicating his time to his loved ones, until, little by little, a deep and growing rift began to form between them. It was in 2018, when Shannon was expecting their third child, she noticed that everything in their relationship had completely shifted, and her husband showed no interest in her anymore. The arguments slowly began to escalate from this point. At 2 a.m. on August 13th of that same year, Nicole Atkinson, Shannon's neighbor and very close friend, drove her home from the airport after she returned from a business trip. They had made plans to go downtown for a pregnancy checkup the very next day. However, the following day, despite her calls and messages, she received no response. He became quite worried and went straight to their house, but despite all his knocking, still no one came to open the door. He then took a quick furtive glance and saw his friend's car in the parking space. At this point, he was finally certain that something had happened, so he contacted the police right then and there to report the incident.
Yes.
Okay. What's going on?
I've called, I've texted. Her car's in the garage. Her shoes she wears every single day are right in the front door.
You seen your neighbors today? No? Okay. What's Chris's phone number?
Chris's phone number is...
Hey Chris, Officer Coonrod for the police department. Do you have any idea where your wife is? Okay, alright. He said like 5 minutes.
Chris had specifically asked the police officer to wait until he himself could arrive. Now, this might not be a truly sufficient reason for us to immediately suspect him, but typically in these kinds of urgent situations, people, out of intense and overwhelming worry, readily permit officers to immediately force open the door and enter the home to investigate precisely what's occurring. This rather unusual and unexpected conduct certainly made the police officer quite suspicious at that very moment.
Scott, how you doing?
How's it going?
So this is the only vehicle she would have?
Only one that,
She would drive? Okay.
Imagine yourself in this truly difficult situation. Your wife and children aren't answering any of your phone calls, and they won't open the front door to your house. The police have just called you on the phone, and you've rushed home from work, completely filled with worry. Probably the very first thing you do after you open the door is to loudly call out the names of your wife and children. Chris, however, remains completely silent. He takes a quick look inside his wife's car, then he proceeds to enter the house. For approximately 1 full minute, he vanishes from sight, and only then does he permit the police officer and the neighbor to step inside. It's quite clear from Nicole's expression that she's deeply frustrated by this senseless delay.
Mind if I come in, Chris?
There are many debatable scenes in this film, right from the moment they entered the house. Pause, many of which probably went unnoticed by the police officer during those moments. Pause. But the most peculiar part of the whole situation is the extended period Chris spends engrossed in his phone, sending texts to someone. However, in a situation like this, Anja Bani, if someone wants to get updates from friends and family about their spouse and children who have gone missing, they would most likely make a phone call instead of sending a text message.
What time do you leave the day?
What time I leave there?
No, here.
Usually between 5:30 and 6.
Not. Was Shannon here then?
Yes. Yeah, she's still in bed.
The subject avoids making prolonged eye contact while answering the police's questions. This, of course, could indicate that they are an introverted person, which, according to the neighbors, they genuinely are. But on the other hand, it might also be because of a secret that they are trying to keep hidden from everyone else.
Have any kind of issues, marital issues, or
We're going through separation.
you are? How's that going?
It's going
Civil for the most
Civil.
part, or?
Here, Chris slowly begins to find the confidence to lay the groundwork for a story he had already meticulously arranged in his mind. He intends to manipulate the entire situation to make it appear that his wife, once the divorce issue became truly serious, took the children by the hand and then abandoned their home.
all the girls' blankets are gone. Their blanket they sleep with, they don't leave anywhere without them.
Good.
The suspect's behavior can be analyzed through 2 distinct lenses. On one hand, every single one of his actions could be interpreted as the body language of a criminal, entirely linked to the disappearance of his wife and children. From another perspective, he's an innocent man, deeply worried about his family's disappearance, and if he acts unusually, it's due to his poor mental and emotional state. However, his neighbor, who had known him for a long time, when he finds himself alone with the police for a few moments, begins to point out the inconsistencies he'd observed in Chris's actions during these past few minutes.
No.
Back and forth. To be completely honest with you, my wife and I were kind of wondering when she was on vacation if something happened, because I've heard them full out screaming at each other at the top of their lungs, and he gets crazy.
Does he? And that's pretty recently?
Yeah. He doesn't look worried. He looks like he's trying to cover his tracks.
The day after the incident, for reasons unknown, Chris agreed to be interviewed by 2 separate news networks. Whether undertaking this action in such a situation was itself a strange and suspicious move is certainly debatable. But what's more important than that is Chris's body language during these interviews.
Told me when she was at the door, and that's when I came home. And then walked in the house, and nothing was vanished. Nothing was here. I mean, she wasn't here. The kids weren't here. Nobody was here.
Sure. What's your kids?
Bella and Celeste. Bella and Celeste.
It's quite interesting to observe when Chris begins to speak about his children, he unconsciously closes his eyes because this subject either makes him sad or makes him afraid. Generally speaking, closing one's eyes while talking in most situations tends to happen when we are discussing something that we genuinely dislike. Chris most likely has a specific scene involving the children playing out in his mind, and the very act of thinking aloud about this particular secret absolutely terrifies him.
Celeste.
And it happens again when spelling the children's names. You might think they're thinking or concentrating on how to spell, but this whole thing keeps going on.
Bella's 4, Celeste is 3. Bella and Celeste. Celeste. Bella's 4, Celeste is 3.
It is quite difficult for us to understand exactly how much the subject regrets what has happened to the children, or if they are even happy. However, what is clear is that simply mentioning their names makes it incredibly hard for them to continue speaking. On the other hand, it does not seem like they have this same feeling toward their spouse, at least not during these particular moments.
I'm gonna have some kind of flashlights on relationship with your kids.
The moment the reporter says, "I want to ask a tough question," the subject firmly presses their lips together. We often press our lips together when we want to avoid saying something. Chris's brain sensed danger in a situation where he was about to talk about his wife and children. He's somehow reminding himself, "Don't you dare say a word."
I'm gonna have some kind of flashlights on relationship with your kids.
My kids are my life. I mean, those smiles light up my life. I miss telling them, hey, you've really got to eat that or you're not getting any dessert, you know? And it's like...
And now, this disgusting, hateful laugh. He's talking about the disappearance of his own children, about all the crucial moments in his life that he has now lost forever. And yet, he's laughing. Chris's uncontrollable subconscious simply won't allow the sheer intensity of his happiness from this terrible incident to remain hidden.
If your wife could truly see this right now, if she were able to watch this message, what heartfelt words would you want to convey to your beloved wife and your precious children? Shanann, my dear Bella, sweet Celeste, if you are out there somewhere, please, just come back home to us. I desperately need to see all of you again, to hold you close. This house, our home, feels utterly empty and incomplete without any of you here with me.
4 hours after this interview, the suspect is brought into the interrogation room to answer a series of questions and complete the case file information.
Tell me exactly what you remember and I'll take notes about where we can go. Let me switch chairs.
This is an old and very common technique where the interrogator sits between the suspect and the room's exit door to give the individual a subtle sense of isolation. This means there's only one way to leave the room, and that's past the interrogator. We've also had cases in our previous episodes where they deliberately seated the accused right by the entrance to give them the distinct impression that they were free to leave whenever they wished. In these instances, which typically occur with younger offenders, the police's intention is to allow the individual more freedom for greater comfort, so that conversations can proceed more smoothly with them.
When we find the guy who took him, what do you think we should do?
This is a technique that is commonly referred to as a provocative question. An innocent person would typically demand the harshest, most severe possible punishment for the individual who has committed this particular crime. However, in this instance, Chris provides a vague and evasive response, essentially sidestepping the question and completely avoiding a direct answer.
They're gonna come home safe, correct? When you find the guy. When we find the guy, they're gonna come home. Life in prison would be that's what I would think with 2 kids that are involved. What if he hurt them? I'm not sure if that penalty is even used in Colorado. I'm not even sure what is the death penalty. Okay. So I need to ask you about your marriage and infidelity. Sure. Okay, tell me about it. I have never cheated on my wife. Okay. And fully suspect she's never done that to me.
Bahorado spring 2018, Chris met a girl named Nicole Kissinger. They both worked for an oil and gas company. Nicole, just like Chris, was an environmental operator for the company. This made them grow closer and closer at work every day. As time went on, their discussions evolved from professional subjects to more intimate topics, and slowly they discovered shared perspectives and mutual interests, which allowed their bond to grow stronger.
I truly appreciate you coming out here with me, Christopher. I am really having such a wonderful time right now. You truly mean a great deal to me, you know.
Nicole later stated in an interview that Chris considered himself on the brink of divorce, which is why he had begun this new relationship. Now the lead investigator is aware of this entire situation. Early in the interrogation, the suspect voluntarily handed over his phone to the police so they could conduct an investigation into his shared messages with Shannon, hoping to uncover something suspicious that might help resolve the case. Although he had deleted all of his messages to Nicole, he probably didn't know or realize that the FBI can easily retrieve every single digital communication or exchange that originated from a device, including even the deleted messages.
Can we talk about something that's kind of hard to talk about? So when I work investigations like this, I have to keep an open mind on everything. Okay. And part of keeping an open mind is listening to you talk about your wife and your marriage, and the day she goes missing is the day that you guys have marital discord. Okay? So you can understand what I'm
I
thinking
talked
about
to
you.
a few of my friends about it, and it's just a really complicated situation to deal with.
There's nothing good on you, but I'm like, I know.
If people knew we were having marital issues, they'd look at us differently.
Especially with the way everything looks. This is something that I would never do.
I know you really have to look at absolutely everything.
Every vantage point. This is something I would never do to my kids or my wife. At all.
This is known as the pause or silence technique. After a suspect has provided an answer to a question, the interrogator, while maintaining unwavering eye contact, remains completely silent. This action conveys a powerful message to the subject, indicating that more information is still needed to be truly convincing. In certain situations, suspects under these specific circumstances often begin to feel that the police already possess significantly more knowledge than they are currently letting on or revealing.
I know that we were having some marital discord at that time. We had that whole conversation early that morning, and then she just left. And now we have no idea where she could possibly be.
Or the kids.
She probably had this. I had nothing to do with any of that.
Are you telling me the truth? I'm telling you the absolute truth. Why should I believe you?
An innocent person will typically respond to this type of inquiry with a question of their own. For instance, they might inquire, "Why exactly are you asking me this particular question?" They would in some manner object to the interrogation process itself and provide a concise, direct response. However, Chris, without offering any protest whatsoever, spends a full minute explaining his personality, stating that he is a calm individual who never gets involved in conflicts with anyone else.
Okay. Would you take a polygraph? Sure. Okay.
The polygraph test, as we know, is not without error. However, if a considerable amount of stress and anxiety is detected in the subject's responses, it can then become a suitable point of leverage, allowing interrogators to more easily engage in more intense confrontations during the questioning phases. The questions within this examination are typically divided into several distinct categories. Some of these are routine inquiries that possess deep psychological roots.
How can one make a person vanish?
If you're talking about what I've seen in movies or how people generally act or what you read about others, I mean, you just
like
hire
a hitman?
someone.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just
that's
being
what I
honest.
want. That's what I want, because I want you to go through all of these scenarios in your head.
And questions with simple and obvious answers. For instance, they might ask him, "Are you currently wearing shoes?" However, they instruct the suspect to deliberately lie when responding to these particular questions. In this specific case, the subject was asked to intentionally give a false answer to any question where the correct response would be the number 3.
Once again, just so that I can be absolutely certain of it, Did you happen to write down the number 1? Did you happen to write down the number 3? And did you also write down the number 5 as well?
No.
This portion of the test is complete. Please remain still.
And ultimately, in this particular instance, before the primary section of the examination, that is, the questions entirely pertinent to the case, commences, the interrogator, using several phrases in a reassuring tone, commends and praises the suspect. But a description that penetrates deep into Chris's psyche and by destroying the very foundations of his self-confidence makes his mind even more preoccupied than before with the unpredictable outcome of the polygraph test.
You did great. You remembered to lie and everything. That was awesome. You obviously are a really bad liar. As people told you that before, like just trying to lie, like they can tell like on your face, but no, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We don't want to be good liars, so thank you for being a horrible liar.
After 8 hours of intense interrogation and a polygraph test, the suspect then requested to speak with his father. And this is exactly the common point, the shared aspect of the Chris and Dawson Mackey case that we had discussed earlier at the episode's start.
What happened? I heard like a little commotion upstairs, but I didn't think anything of it. And then went back upstairs and she was dead. Yeah, and I could see like she climbed up and she choking her, and she telling they're blue. You choked her till she turned blue.
I totally freaked out when you said that. I clearly heard him choking her, and then this happened, and then this.
That's when I just realized, holy crap, they're completely purple. You choked her so hard that her skin turned a deep purple color. Were you actually trying to kill someone? Seriously, man? No, of course not. I completely freaked out the moment you actually said that. And then this happened, and then this happened, and that's when I just realized, holy crap, they're completely purple. You choked her so hard that her skin turned a deep purple color. You surely didn't mean to cause such harm.
The suspect forgot the interrogation room has cameras, and even if the interrogators aren't there, everything is recorded.
So it's completely clear that you were not honest during the test. I think you already know that. He did not pass the polygraph test. Okay. So now we need to talk about what actually happened.
You know my DNA. You don't know polygraph, I promise.
I know that. Stop it now.
Time. Take a deep breath. I want you to take a deep breath right now.
Chris Watts finally confessed that on the night of August 13th, during a fierce argument with Shannon, he got into a physical altercation with her and killed her. After he had buried the body, he then had to figure out what to do about his 2 young daughters who had witnessed the entire incident. So he took the children, exited through the back door, and then drove them straight to his workplace. In a mere fraction of a second, sheer madness transformed this man into a truly ruthless monster. It was there that he first strangled Celeste, then Bella, and subsequently dumped their bodies into the oil tank. After this confession, he was transferred to a detention center, and a few months later in court, he was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to a term similar to life imprisonment plus 1 day.